For this meeting for Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Here, Mrs. McCarthy.
Here.
Mrs. Saxon.
Here.
Mrs. Tamira.
Here.
Mr. Vaca.
Here. It is recommended that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss the appointment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of public employees, and matters related to negotiations of public employees. There will be no action to follow.
Move. Second.
Moved by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Tamira. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mrs. Tamira.
Yes.
Mr. Grigsby.
Yes.
Ms. Saxon
Yes.
and Mr. Vaca.
Yes. All right, we're going to go ahead and resume public session. Finalization of the agenda. Is there anything to add on the read?
Do we resume public session? Okay. Yes, the agenda is final as presented.
Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Pritt, who is going to do a very high-level overview of our board policy update. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you. So you have in front of you tonight a series of board policy revisions that we are doing a first reading on tonight with a second reading that will come at our next meeting later this month. So Neola, which is our representative agency that works on board policies, has sent us a list of policies that we should look at for revising. And that's really what you have in front of you today. So in total, between the last couple of revisions, there's about 57 policies that needed to be looked at. In some cases, those were complete rewrites from Neola. For instance, the volunteer policy, they have gotten rid of and they've replaced with a new policy. In other cases, it's just a minor word tweak or two. So all of those have been provided for you. We've worked through those with our board policy committee. I appreciate their work on that. A couple real high levels that I just want to kind of bring your attention to. Policy 7217, which goes by several other names like 3217 and 4217. And the reason for that is every time you have a policy, they often repeat in different categories. So you might have an administrative one, you might have a certified staff one, you might have a classified staff one. In that case, those are the weapons policies. So the state over the last couple of years has made quite a few changes at the state level about who can carry weapons that ultimately impact the school. What you need to know from that one is our policy remains the same as it was prior to those changes being made. So I think that's an important one to recognize, is that we are still working under the same guidance at the district level than we have that we were prior. Second one I want to bring your attention to is policy 5460, graduation requirements. And what that one did was that one simply looked at and modernized our policy to meet the new state guidelines with SEALs. So for the last couple of years, there's been a couple of different ways that students would graduate. Some were pathways, some were just on the old tests, some were SEALs. We are finally at a point to where all our 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders are graduating using SEALs. So that is what that one does. It just lays it out there for you. Again, no graduation change requirements at district level as far as credits. One small tweak you will see in that one, though, is it provides some additional flexibility for our students at the JVS. So our JVS students are still required to meet our requirements, our 22 hours and everything. But because of the uniqueness of their programs, their areas where they have to get those 22 credits might look a little bit different, in particularly in our history and our social studies areas, because their 11th and 12th grade social studies and history courses, they combine and group differently than we do here. So in order to make sure that our kids could graduate, we wanted to make sure that was in effect. 8390 put some structures in place for animals on district property around what is a therapy animal, what is a support animal, and works through kind of the guidelines and things there, because those are terms that I think are sometimes used interchangeably, and they are not. They are actually significantly different from one another. And then the other one, the final one I want to bring your attention to, and again, there are lots of things here we haven't talked about, is policy 5330 medications. And this one actually came from our nurses who requested this change. And really what inspired this change was our students that are taking out-of-state field trips. Our previous policy, or the one that we're currently working under until this is approved, if a student were to need an over-the-counter medication, it requires not only a parent sign off, but a physician sign off as well. Which sounds wonderful until you get a student an hour from home who suddenly realizes that they get car sick on a bus. And the only thing you can tell them is in just 6 more hours, we can get you off of here. So the revision to this policy actually would allow a parent signature to administer over-the-counter medications. So a Dramamine, a Tylenol, if a student turned out that they, were to get somewhere far away from home and they're having an allergic reaction, could give Benadryl or something of that nature. So this would allow those things to happen just with a parent signature versus the parent and the physician signature, because that's not always easy to get. So in total, again, 50 some change, or 50 some policies in total. Again, some of those are the same policy, just multiple times, that we'll be putting in front of you at our next meeting for revisions. That will then bring us up to date with our policy side, and then we'll work a little bit on our administrative guideline side next. So are there any questions?
David, just a point of clarification, the medications policies
Yes.
is also affects on campus.
The way it is written, it will affect on campus. So it would allow parents to sign off on the administration over the counters in District of Well. It started as the field trip piece, and then the nurses, as I worked through it, thought, you know what, that would really be great, but would benefit our families. So the policy is actually written in such a way to provide that flexibility.
Is this a form that'll be something we fill out at the beginning of the school year?
It could be, or it could just be on an as needed. So student twists their foot, ends up in a booth, they can't see a doctor for 2 days. It would give the parents the ability to fill out that form. Yep.
Thank you to the policy review committee. Do an amazing job.
Absolutely.
Just so you know, Mr. Britt does the majority of the
Yeah,
work.
he does all the.
I was gonna
He does all the.
If you do have questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Announcements? Any announcements this evening? No? Hearing of the public, there's nobody in attendance this evening, so we'll move right into the consent agenda. We have an education report, Mr. Carroll.
Thank you. We have 2 items to consider in the education report. First item is the multi-year agreement for the purchase of Quizzes. Quizzes is a learning platform built to help teachers achieve 100% student engagement with live and asynchronistic gamified quizzes, class polls, interactive lessons, and study tools. This quote includes unlimited platform access by teachers, students, parents, and administrators during the duration of the license. The cost of this agreement is $14,400. Next item is the addendum to the high school program of studies. This addendum will provide for the state required graduation seals. This is the first reading for these items. The second reading and consideration for approval will be at our March 27th meeting.
Policy committee report, Ms. McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Baca. As you just heard, policy committee met and revised a set of policies hosted by Neola. Committee has reviewed and made edits to the policies listed below. The second reading and consideration for approval will be on the March 27th regular meeting.
Thank you. Communications report, Mr. Grigsby.
It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following gifts with appreciation. $2,750 was donated by the Lions Club of North Ridgeville Educational Outreach Program to the teachers and staff members of the North Ridgeville City School District. $3,295 was donated by the Athletic Boosters to purchase wall padding for the North Ridgeville competition gym. $3,550 was donated by the Athletic Boosters to purchase LED lights for the basketball backboards. We thank our community for the tremendous support of our schools and students.
Human resources report, Ms. Saxon.
Yes, we have a number of items in the human resources report. 1, leave replacement support staff appointment. 8, certified staff leaves of absence. 3, support staff leaves of absence. 3 support staff resignations. This is the first reading for these items. The second reading and consideration for approval will be at the March 27th regular meeting. This concludes the human resource report.
Second, I did. Ms. Saxon, the second human resources
Yes,
report.
we now have a few items to consider under the human resources report. 2 support staff appointments, 1 support staff substitute contract, and 7 unpaid volunteer recognitions. I move to approve the human resources items in 1 reading.
Second,
Moved by Ms. Saxon, second by Ms. Tamira. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Saxon,
Yes.
Mrs. Tamira,
yes.
Mr. Grigsby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Vaca.
Yes. Recommended the Board of Education adjourn this regular meeting.
Okay.
By Ms. Tamira, second by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tamira,
Yes.
Mrs. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Grigsby,
Yes.
Mrs. Saxon,
Yes.
Mr. Vaca.
Yes.
6:11.
Thank you, everybody.
If I could talk to just the 5 of us, that would be great. Thank you.